What's going on, BLV? It's Mitch here, back with another week of NFL picks. Straight up and versus the spread. I pick every game in the NFL every single week. This time for week number 6 of the 2023 NFL season. If that sounds good, don't forget to spike that like button and subscribe for weekly NFL live. We do it live on the Bottom Line View every week. Subscribe. Also, if you want to know, hey Mitch, where can I get your bets? Where can I get your betting advice? You can check out Patreon. The link is in the description. I also put it in the live comment section as well. So check that out, guys. Patreon, BLV. Just search up the Bottom Line View Patreon on Google as well. You'll find it there. If you want to become a patron, you get all of my bets for a month at only $3 a month. I mean, come on. We're doing good this season too. We're like 67% this year on our best bets. So check that out. Now, in terms of my record this season, straight up and versus the spread for every game, our record is 51-27 straight up. Our spread record is 48-28-2. And our over-under record is 42-35-1. My over-under picks will be tomorrow on Thursday. So make sure to check that out. And it will be live this week. Last week it couldn't be live because I had to go on a plane to San Francisco. But I will not be doing that this week. And last week I went 10-4 straight up. And I went 10-4 versus the spread, which I think is a pretty good week. Obviously, we didn't have the full 16-game slate. We had 14 games. So 10-4 is pretty good. I do want to give a shout out to whoever it was. I don't remember. But they said, hey, Mitch, you're wrong about your record last week. You only went this and that against the spread. And they were correct. So I went back and I checked my picks because I have a document against for my picks. It was not a good week 5, so I adjusted that on my full season record, so thank you to whoever that was. I want to be accountable, so thank you. I guess I thought I was 9-7 versus the spread last week, and I was actually 7-9, so I just got it mixed up when I calculated it on the total. So thank you to that person. Don't remember who it was. But anyways, spike the like button. Let's get to the picks, and let's say hello to the people first. We've got Luke in the chat who says, hi, Bottom Line View. What's going on, Luke? Caesar is in the chat. How you doing, Mr. Caesar? Big Al says, spike the like button. Subscribe, share the stream, become a member, become a patron, join the Discord, follow Mitch on social media, get turnt, y'all. Big Al says, what's up, brother Mitch? How you feeling? I'm feeling fantastic, bro. I'm wearing my new Undertaker shirt. I'm ready to roll. ELB is in the chat. He says he won $300 with a parlay based on your picks. That's awesome, man. That's good to hear. That's what I'm here for. So appreciate you guys in the chat, and thank you for the support, Mr. ELB. So let's get to it. Let's start with the Thursday night matchup, which for some reason I thought was in Denver like the entire week until I actually went and checked. But it's in Kansas City. The Chiefs are favored by 10.5 in this matchup. And the way I see it, Kansas City's the better team. Kansas City's at home. This is a short week, typically favors better teams. That being said, Kansas City scares me to death every single week, bro. Every single week versus the spread. I mean, this week was no different against the Vikings. If it were not for the refs, which you have to calculate the refs in your handicap. When you're talking Chiefs games and you're trying to evaluate who's going to win or lose, you've got to account for the refs giving the Chiefs the call in the fourth quarter every single time, especially with this new Taylor Swift thing going on. You've got to account for that. Now, Travis Kelce is questionable. George Karlaftis is questionable. Denver's pretty healthy. Justin Simmons back in the lineup. Denver's defense was still not good last week, even against the Jets and Zach Wilson. That being said, Zach Wilson also shredded the Chiefs. So you can look at it any way you like there. I will also say that Denver's defense was good in the red zone. I will say that. So if they can do that, maybe they can hang around in this game a little bit because actually Denver's offense has been pretty good. Russell Wilson has been decent. He's throwing the ball well, moving better than last year. I think overall, Sean Payton's doing a better job scheming up the offense, which was to be expected this year. They're just terrible on defense to the point where they're like one of the worst defenses in NFL history. I think Kansas City will win this game. I have a little doubt about that, but I do have doubt about the spread. I actually think this is a number that you have to take Denver. This is probably not going to be a best bet for me, but this is a number that's just too big in a divisional matchup on a short week where Travis Kelce could maybe not play. And without Travis Kelce, this offense is very, very, very mediocre, in my opinion. Kansas City's also a team that they get in the lead and they kind of just take their foot off the gas and they let the other team kind of stay in the game forever. So I feel like that hook, especially on the 10, is very enticing with Denver. So I'm going to take the Broncos to cover, but I'll take the Chiefs to win the game, making that clear as my pick for Thursday night. Okay, now we move to Sunday. We've got the London matchup. That is the Baltimore Ravens at the Tennessee Titans. Titans are technically the home team here. I would say if this game was actually in Tennessee, I'd look at the Titans as potentially being an upset team. I still maybe would look at the Titans as an upset potential team here, but I don't know if I really trust them. I don't know if I can really trust the Ravens passing game either with the amount of drops they had last week. But that just seems to be what's happening against the Steelers for everybody. Like, other than the Niners, who are just like a train, and I've called them pretty much generational at this point. The Steelers just, they're just a weird team. They get so much luck and flukiness. So I feel like that's not going to carry over against Tennessee. That being said, these two teams are pretty familiar with each other from a coaching and scheme standpoint. Lamar has played Vrabel teams quite often. Harbaugh and Vrabel have gone at it. They've nearly fought on the field before. They've played in playoff games. So this will definitely be a fun game, I think. It will be tough. It will be physical. And I think Tennessee, the one thing I worry about is, I don't know if Derrick Henry's the same player. You know, in these games in the past, Derrick Henry was able to just make some big explosive plays, and that would set up Tannehill for throwing the ball down the field. The Ravens are pretty good against the run. The Ravens have their secondary healthier in this game. I think that makes a big difference. I like Marlon Humphrey and the matchup against DeAndre Hopkins, a size corner who can take on D-Hop's size, I feel like. So I think the Ravens defense is going to be probably the difference here, along with Lamar making some magic. But I don't know if it's enough to cover. I'm kind of scared to pick the Ravens both ways, but I'm going to pick the Ravens both ways. I feel like Lamar connects with some of these deep balls down the field with Zay Flowers and Nelson Aguilar to allow them to win by about a touchdown. I don't know how good Tennessee is. Tennessee has a spirit that's hard to deny. They're good as underdogs, but I just don't know how good they are. Like, their offensive line's flawed. Tannehill isn't that great. Like, yeah, I like what D-Hop's been doing. I like what Spears has been doing. I like some of their pieces on defense. Their front seven is aggressive and physical, but the secondary has issues sometimes to cover down the field. I think Aguilar, Flowers take advantage of that as long as they can actually catch the football. So I'll take Baltimore to have kind of a bounce back from the passing game standpoint. They had 7 drops last week. I don't think that happens 2 weeks in a row. I'll take Baltimore by about a touchdown in this game. Next, we've got the Washington Commanders at the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta favored by 2.5 at home. I'm just going to keep this simple. I was very disappointed in the Commanders' performance last week. Luckily, I did start Sam Howell in one of my fantasy leagues, and he had a very nice day in that second half, torching the Bears. So that was nice, but they were really bad once again in that game in terms of their defense, and their defense has been atrocious. That being said, this has kind of been Washington's thing for the last couple of years, where they're really bad on defense through like 5 or 6 games, and then they turn it around. I could see if they're going to turn it around, this being the game, just because Atlanta is kind of a one-dimensional offense where Washington has been better against the run than the pass, and if there is a team that you want to be better against the run than the pass against, it's definitely Atlanta. So that type of matchup does make it interesting. That being said, I'm not going to fade Desmond Ridder at home. He's undefeated at home. I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm going to take Ridder at home. And Atlanta's been a good home team. Their defense, I think, is super underrated. And I think The difference in this game is going to be, I feel like Howell will take sacks. I feel like the offensive line for Washington leaves them out to dry sometimes. And Howell, I think, will also turn the ball over 1 or 2 times. And I feel like maybe Ridder doesn't do anything fantastic in this game. I thought he had his best game of his career last week. Maybe he doesn't have that type of game again, but I feel like he just won't be sacked or turn the ball over like potentially Howell and Washington will, which I think might be the difference, especially with that home team advantage, the crowd, that sort of thing, with 2 young quarterbacks in this game. So I'm worried about Washington's offensive line in this matchup, but gonna go with Atlanta. It's not gonna be a best bet, but it's one that I'm kind of like intrigued by, because I feel like Atlanta, if they're the team that I think they should be this year, which is like flirting with the playoffs, they should take care of business. But Washington is talented enough to steal this game. So it's an interesting game to me. I'll definitely keep a close eye on it. But I really just like how Atlanta's playing defense. I really do. I think their safeties are playing great. I think A.J. Terrell's playing great. I think their old guys on the D-line are playing pretty well, especially David Onyemata. And I think they're scheming it up exceptionally well week after week. So I think Atlanta will win this game on the back of their defense. Next, the Minnesota Vikings at the Chicago Bears. This might or might not be a best bet this week. I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings, -2.5 at the Bears. I think this is kind of the perfect time to get off the Bears train. Fields has looked like a good quarterback through the last 2 weeks, throwing 8 touchdowns, I think, in 2 games. And I've had Bears fan after Bears fan comment how I'm an idiot about saying he sucks. But this is the game where I think he sucks a little bit more than he did the last couple of weeks, because he's playing Brian Flores, and Brian Flores loves to blitz. And if there's one thing Fields isn't good at, it's playing against the blitz. So I do feel like, yeah, you can play well against the Commanders defense, who stinks. You can play well against the worst defense in NFL history, the Denver Broncos. But can you play well against a good coordinator? I'm not sure you can. The Vikings are also good against the run, so I think that will take part of the game out for Chicago. And then you just look at it offense for offense, even without Justin Jefferson, who's probably, he's out the next 4 weeks at least. So even without Justin Jefferson, you still got Jordan Addison, you still got KJ Osborne, who's underrated in my book, TJ Hawkinson, Kirk Cousins, who's a much better quarterback here. I like the Vikings. They swept the Bears last year. I think that they will beat the Bears in Chicago once again this season. And I think this is a short number, honestly. I'm surprised it's not 3 or more. I know the Bears are playing well, and I know that their offense has been explosive, but I think the Vikings are a better team that have the record they have because they played a tough schedule. They've played, tougher teams. They've played the Eagles, they've played the Chiefs, they've played the Chargers, they played the Bucks. So they've played some pretty good teams. Chicago's played some pretty bad teams, and they still haven't beat all of them. So there you go. All right, next, Seattle at Cincinnati. I've got the Bengals. This is a great game, but I'm taking the Bengals. This is going to be a marquee matchup this week. I think could be potentially a pretty high-scoring game between Geno Smith and Joe Burrow. But I saw enough. A lot of people are kind of adamant that Cincinnati isn't all the way back. But I saw enough from Joe Burrow to believe that they are close, at least. They are close to being back. So I view it as Cincinnati at home, big spot to get back to 500. I think they win this game. I think Seattle's defense is overrated. I think they really played well against the Giants because the Giants are really bad on offense. Like, they can't block. They allowed 11 sacks. I don't see that happening. I think Cincinnati, really good throwing the ball short. Seattle, really bad at defending short passes. Seattle, I just don't think there's going to be an answer for Jamar Chase here, even if T. Higgins plays or not. And I feel like Cincinnati's defense at home is pretty solid with a pretty good pass rush. One of the better ones I think Seattle's played this year, and a good linebacker position. I think their corners, while they're not going to have the advantage against DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, I think they can play good enough. So I'm going to take the Bengals. They know this is a big spot. Love the edge that Jamar Chase is playing with. You know, this guy has such swagger. This guy has such confidence, borderline cockiness. But I believe that when you say you're always open and then you go out there and you just light the skies on fire in Arizona, you're showing the world that you're here. And I think Jamar Chase has another huge game in this one. I'm going with Cincinnati -3 and Cincinnati to win. No offense to Seattle. Seattle is a good team. Seattle is a team I think will make the playoffs. I think Cincinnati is getting back on track. This is just a bigger game for Cincinnati here. All right. Next up, we've got the Indianapolis Colts at the Jacksonville Jags. Jacksonville always beats Indianapolis at home, right? Like, I'm not mistaken by saying that, right? This might be a trendy pick for some people to take the Colts plus the 4. Given that Jacksonville is coming back from London after a big win, I can see where they're coming from. But I just don't want to fade history here. Like, Jacksonville owns the Colts at home. So I'm not going to make that any more complicated, just like the Steelers and Ravens last week. I'm not going to overcomplicate this thing. I'm going to take Trevor Lawrence, the better quarterback. I love Gardner Minshew, right? This could potentially be a revenge game. But Trevor Lawrence, better quarterback. The Jags have a significantly better offense. And the defense of Jacksonville is playing really well, and their secondary is really good. I think what I worry about here is Jacksonville's really good against the run. Colts kind of need to run the ball to be successful. And if there's too much pressure on Gardner Minshew on the road against this secondary that can really cover their butts off, I think it's going to be tough for the Colts to score points. So even if the Colts come in here and play really good defense, or Jacksonville, because of their trip from London, starts slow offensively, which could happen, I still feel Jacksonville is going to find a way to win and find a way to cover. So I'm going to take Jacksonville to win, to cover, win by about 6 points in this game. Something like 23-17. That's going to be my score. All right, next, we've got the Arizona Cardinals at the LA Rams. Rams are favored by 7, and you know, when I saw this spread, it felt really odd to me, like, that it was this big, just because Arizona has been playing pretty well, and the Rams lost to the Eagles. They didn't cover, and they were dominated in a lot of areas. I kind of feel like, at the same time, though, this is a good matchup for the Rams from the standpoint of the Bengals had a lot of success throwing the ball. The Rams will have a lot of success throwing the ball against Arizona. I don't think the Cardinals can match up with Cooper Kupp and Nakua and the receiving core of the Rams, which I think is going to allow Stafford to feast in this game and put up probably 300. But at the same time, the Cardinals have a sneaky good offense. Like, schematically, they're fun, they're different, they're hard to play against. I don't think the Rams defense is all that good. I don't think they're like bad, but I don't think they're good. So I think my problem here is that I just don't know if I trust the Rams to cover a 7. Like, I think when you're looking at the Cardinals, they've played much more talented overall rosters than the Rams. And they've played well. They've played Dallas, right? They've played they've played the Bengals. They competed with a lot of the teams they've played. And to me, 7 feels too big. But I'm going to take the Rams to win because of Stafford here and the passing game of the Rams. I'm not convinced either way on the spread, but I will take the 7 points in a divisional matchup with the Cardinals. Not convinced by it, not a strong take, but I'll take the 7. Next, the Carolina Panthers at the Miami Dolphins. Miami is favored by 13.5. I'm taking Miami to win and Miami to cover. Quite simply, Miami at home is a different animal. Miami can blow you out in a matter of 3 drives. Carolina's the worst team in the NFL according to my power rankings, and I don't think that changes this week. Carolina has a beat-up defense, a secondary that I just simply don't think can cover Miami. And Miami's going to score 35 points in this game. I don't know how the Panthers are going to be able to keep up. Bryce Young, to me, is a little bit shaky. He's played maybe a little bit better lately, but a lot of garbage time. The Dolphins have played much better offenses. And honestly, like, the Dolphins covered last week, and they played bad. Like, objectively, Tua played probably the worst game of his season last week, and they still covered against the Giants. A similar number. If this was like 14.5 or 15 or 16, I'd take Carolina. But given that it's under 2 touchdowns, I'm going to take Miami to cover, Miami to win. I just don't think Carolina is going to score that many points. And Miami will. Simple football. Next, the New Orleans Saints at the Houston Texans. This is a 1.5 point spread, which I think is indicative of the fact that nobody knows what's going to take place in this game. This is a veteran team with a veteran roster and a veteran quarterback taking on a young team, a young coach, a young roster. This one could really go either way. The young team is at home, which I think is a big deal. I think New Orleans, though, last week was impressive, especially on defense. You know, you could say the Patriots are terrible, which is absolutely true. But the Saints defense was ridiculously good in that game as well. And they've been really good this season. I think they're second in EPA, which is not really surprising. I do believe that the Saints are the more talented team. I do think the Texans have the better coaching staff. And I do think the Texans have the better quarterback. So it's tricky. It could go either way. I'm not betting it. I'm going to take the Saints because of their defense. That's really the deciding factor for me. I'm going to take the Saints because of their defense. I think it's the strongest unit in the game. And I feel like Dennis Allen is a defensive coordinator that I don't really feel like CJ, as much as I love him, has seen yet. Like, I don't think he's seen a defensive coordinator that is this good against pocket quarterbacks. Like, this defense is just really good against quarterbacks that are pretty stationary. And I think New Orleans dominates on defense. So, I'm going to go Saints in a relatively low-scoring game because I don't really trust Derek Carr right now with the injury. But I do feel like they'll make more plays. So, I'll take the Saints. Next, Detroit at Tampa Bay. Oh man, this one is interesting because I could really see an upset in this game, but at the same time, I don't want to fade Detroit. So this is tricky. Like, I feel like Detroit is the much better overall team, but it's a weird spot for them. They're riding high. They're going on the road to Tampa. Tampa's coming off of a bye week. They're healthy. Right? They're getting Jamel Dean back, Ryan Neal back. But I also do have questions about the competition that Tampa's faced, right? They've only really faced a team at the level of Detroit once, which was Philadelphia, and they lost pretty substantially, and they were dominated for the most part in that game, and they didn't cover. At the same time, though, I kind of like how Tampa matches up against Detroit from the standpoint of I think they have the receivers to throw the ball well enough here. I think that they also have a defense that is good against the run, no Jahmyr Gibbs, and a cornerback group that is really talented with Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean. I can't pick against the Lions, though. I think this is going to be a trendy upset pick. I just feel like Detroit is playing too well for me to not pick them. So maybe I'll regret not taking the upset, but I think I would regret not taking Detroit more right now just because Goff is playing really good football. Their offensive line is playing really, really well. Amon-Ra will be back in this game. He'll make his fair share of plays. And their defense, I think Detroit's defense will stop the Bucs run game, which will put a lot of pressure on Baker to make consistent throws. And as much as maybe Tampa has the advantage in that asset or that facet of the game, I feel like Detroit will make enough stops on defense in the passing game. So I'm going to go with Detroit, but it's not confident. And 3.5, if this were 3.5, I would maybe lean towards Tampa with the points, but I'm going to take Detroit at -3. So Detroit at -3 is the pick. Detroit to win straight up is the pick. For me, at 3.5, maybe I lean towards more of Tampa Bay. Philadelphia at the Jets. The Jets getting 7 at home. Philly, a lot of people questioning them week after week. Oh, can they possibly keep playing the way they're playing? And I don't really get that analysis based on their performance against the Rams, where they outgained them by, I think, 200 yards. They outpossessed them by like 10 minutes. They thoroughly dominated the game. I felt like Jalen Hurts was really good in that game. I thought that was his best game of the season. A.J. Brown's playing phenomenal football. The defense of the Eagles stops the run consistently. And this is where I think the Eagles win, and I think they win convincingly. I just feel like the Jets, as good as their defense can be at times, there's one area of weakness, which is the run defense. The Eagles are an excellent run team, and I think getting consistent run gains in this game will open up their passing game against the Jets. Secondly, I think that keeps the pass rush at bay. And third, I feel like the Eagles are really good against the run. So the Jets, which is basically their entire offense right now, Breece Hall, they really won't be able to run the ball that effectively. So I think the Eagles, their ability to run the ball and stop the run is why I think the Eagles win this game and the Eagles cover this game. I think something like 27-14 sounds about right in this matchup. Eagles travel to the Jets, win, and cover. Next, the New England Patriots at the Las Vegas Raiders. I think that worked that time. I had to play it. The Raiders are at home once again. This is the rematch, the replay of the game last year where Jacoby Myers, who is now a Las Vegas Raider, threw the ball to Chandler Jones, who stiff-armed Mac Jones for a touchdown. I have no confidence in my Patriots. I have absolutely no confidence. There is no way I'm going to pick the Patriots. That being said, if there is a game that the Patriots can win, it should be this game because they are very familiar with the Raiders. I mean, they know their entire coaching staff. They know their offense. They know their defense. They know their quarterback. They know one of their receivers. They know half of their personnel. I mean, so it feels like if New England is going to win a game and bounce back, it should be this game. But the Raiders are just playing better. The Raiders defense, I think, is playing really good. Max Crosby is an absolute terror. Their secondary is not giving up big plays. And the Raiders offense is not playing good. I will say that. Not playing to the level that they should be. They have yet to score, I think, over 17 points this year. And they've won 2 games. So give credit to the Raiders defense. I think the Raiders win the game like 21-17. Something like that. So I'll take the Raiders to win, the Raiders to cover. But if there is a game the Patriots can bounce back and win, it should be this game. So there's a little bit of hope for Patriots fans here. But I think the Raiders, honestly, you look at the Raiders' schedule. If they can get their offense going, this team could be in the wild card discussion. Not saying they're going to make it, but the discussion. You look at their schedule, they play a lot of teams that are as good or not as good as them. So if Garoppolo can just not turn the ball over and they can continue to play consistent defense here, they've actually got a shot this season. So I'm going to go Raiders to win, Raiders to cover. Raiders! Next up, the New York Giants at the Buffalo Bills. I still don't understand why this game is on Sunday Night Football. It is a depressing game to watch the Giants. That being said, there is the Brian Daboll storyline. And that makes me really enticed to take the Giants plus 14 points. But the Bills are at home. And if the Bills get an early lead, I don't know if I don't know if the Giants are going to be able to come back. The way that the Giants have played on primetime, can I really take them even plus 14 points? No Matt Milano, no Tre'Davious White. I can't bet on the Giants right now. I can't. I'm going to go 34-17 Buffalo to win and to cover. It'll be close, like in terms of the spread. I think there'll be moments where you're backing the Giants with 14 and you'll be kind of like, oh, we got this. And then all of a sudden, Josh Allen will make two ridiculous plays and the Bills will win and cover. This is also coming off of a loss for the Bills. So Buffalo will have some sort of edge here to win this game and to bounce back. But the Giants, I think, will be motivated to play for their coach. I will say that. Bills to win, Bills to cover. Sunday night shouldn't be the Sunday night game. I hope they flex it out, which they won't. Monday Night Football. I think this is the game of the week. We got the Dallas Cowboys at the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers. I've got the Cowgirls. Yes, sir. The Cowgirls in a bounce back spot to win this game. I like Dallas a lot in this game, actually. This is the first game I bet. I like Dallas. I think I watched their game against the Niners. I was there in person. It was not pretty. It was ugly. But they played the best team in the NFL in their building in a big spot, Sunday Night Football. They played the worst matchup for their team, which is the Niners. The Cowboys cannot beat the Niners. The Cowboys don't match up well with the Niners. The Niners make the Cowboys look bad. You know who makes offenses look good? There is one man and one man only that is better than anyone in the NFL at making offenses look good. And his name is Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley. The Chargers, I think, have been a little bit overhyped due to their wins over teams like Minnesota and a Raiders team that didn't have Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think the Chargers are very good at all. I think the Cowboys are a top 10 team. Maybe they're not elite, but they're a top 10 team. They do have a top 5 defense, no matter what you tell me. I think Micah Parsons and that unit bounces back. I think Stephon Gilmore plays well against Keenan Allen. And I think that Tony Pollard runs the ball for over 100 yards. CeeDee Lamb gets heavily involved here, dominates the middle of the field. And I think Dak Prescott has a bounce back. I think Dallas wins this game because they're the more overall better team. And I don't think there's a Kellen Moore revenge game happening. So I'm going to take Dallas -2, Dallas to win. This is a Cowboys home game. This is a Cowboys home game. Monday Night Football in LA. There will be more Cowboys fans at this stadium than Chargers fans. Give me the Cowboys to win, the Cowboys to cover. I just think they're the better team. I think the Chargers are a bit fraudulent and a bit overrated. I think the Cowboys, this is a time to buy them because of how bad they looked on Sunday night. So there it is. My picks for week number 6. Hope you guys enjoyed. Appreciate everybody in the comment section, man. Neil Williams, Jordan Hunter. We got Paul in the chat. We got Singh in the chat. Miss Harley Quinn in the chat. We've got Marcus in the chat. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Ashton Luck, Daniel. Appreciate the conversation and the comments. One Pride, Big Al, the man, the myth. Thank you guys. Gronk, spike the like button if you haven't already. Get those Gronk spikes up. Get those likes up. That's the only way people can find this video and support the BLV. The more likes, the more exposure. So if you want to just do a little bit to support the channel, Gronk, spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out Patreon if you want my bets each and every week. My best bets will be out tonight, so make sure to check that out probably within the next hour or two. Thanks, guys, for watching. Peace.